It all started on a rainy Saturday afternoon. I wasn't looking for anything extraordinary, just rummaging through the attic for old holiday decorations and forgotten boxes. Dust hung in the air like a curtain, stirred by every movement. My flashlight flickered across rows of unlabeled cardboard boxes until it landed on an old wooden chest tucked behind a stack of worn suitcases. Its edges were chipped and the lock was rusty, but something about it drew me in. With a little effort and a lot of curiosity, I prized it open. Inside were faded photographs, handwritten letters, and a birth certificate. One that didn't match my name. My heart skipped a beat. The name on the certificate was different. The birth date matched mine, and the parents listed weren't the ones I had always known. I sifted through the papers with trembling hands. One letter stood out. It was addressed to someone named Eli and signed by a woman called Marianne. I didn't recognize the names, but the words carried deep emotion, longing, sorrow, love. As I read on, a strange feeling came over me. These weren't just random letters. They were personal. They felt connected to me. The deeper I dug, the more questions surfaced. Why was this box hidden? Why did it feel like a part of me had been tucked away with it? I stared at the unfamiliar name on the birth certificate, suddenly uncertain of who I really was. That day in the attic changed everything. I didn't know it yet, but I had just uncovered the first thread in a tangled web of family secrets that would unravel the truth about my identity and the painful choices my parents made to keep it hidden. I couldn't sleep that night. The image of the birth certificate and the letter from Marianne kept replaying in my mind. By morning, I had decided this wasn't something I could ignore. After breakfast, I sat down across from my mother at the kitchen table, my hand still shaking as I slid the paper toward her. She went pale. "Where did you find this?" she asked quietly, her eyes avoiding mine. "In the attic," I replied, watching her closely. "Why is my name different? Who is Marianne?" My father walked in just then, sensing the tension. My mother showed him the letter without a word. He sighed heavily, ran a hand through his graying hair and sat down beside her. For a moment there was only silence between us, the kind that feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. "We always knew this day would come," he said, finally meeting my eyes. "But we hoped it wouldn't come this soon." Instead of answers, they gave vague explanations, complicated circumstances, a promise made. "You were always ours." The words danced around the truth, but never landed on it. Frustrated and confused, I left the house and drove to visit Aunt Lydia, my mother's older sister. She had always been the more candid one in the family, someone who didn't sugarcoat the truth. When I showed her the birth certificate and letter, her reaction was immediate. She gasped, then whispered, "They didn't destroy it after all." "What do you mean?" I pressed, my voice rising. She hesitated, then stood up and walked over to an old photo album. Flipping through it, she pointed to a picture of a young woman holding a baby. "Me. That's Marianne," she said softly, "and that baby is you." I stared at the image, my world spinning. Why didn't anyone ever tell me? "There were reasons," Aunt Lydia replied, her voice trembling. "But it wasn't right to keep this from you. You deserve to know everything." Her words both comforted and terrified me. The truth was no longer buried in boxes and shadows. It was beginning to rise. But I knew this was just the surface. I had to go deeper. And deep down I feared that what I'd uncover next might change everything I believed about the people who raised me, and about myself. I couldn't stop staring at the photograph Aunt Lydia had shown me. Marianne's face looked kind, youthful, and full of life. She couldn't have been older than 20 in the picture, and there was a softness in her expression as she cradled the baby. Me. My heart ached with questions I didn't even know how to ask. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece it all together. Why had she given me up? Had she been forced to? Was she still alive? Fueled by uncertainty and a growing need for answers, I took the first bold step the next morning. I ordered a DNA test. While I waited for the results, I dove into every piece of information I could gather. I searched through old newspaper archives, social media accounts, and genealogy websites. Every time I typed in Marianne, my hope rose, only to fall again with dead ends and silent profiles. It was like chasing a ghost. Until, finally, a match appeared. The DNA results came back after 2 long weeks. A woman named Marianne Harper was listed as a 99.9% parental match. She was real, and she was alive. My heart pounded as I stared at the screen. Her profile had a current address and a public Facebook page. Her photos showed a quiet life in a small town not far from where I'd grown up. There were pictures of a garden, a dog, and a few family gatherings, but no children, no mention of me. I hesitated for days, unsure if I should contact her. What if she didn't want to see me? What if my reaching out reopened wounds she had tried to bury? But the desire to know the truth was stronger than the fear of rejection. So I wrote her a message. It was short and careful. Hi, Marianne. I believe we might be connected. I recently found some letters and documents that suggest you may be my birth mother. I don't want to cause any pain. I'm just searching for the truth. If you're open to speaking, I'd really appreciate it. I stared at the screen for a long time before hitting send. Minutes passed, then hours, then a day. Still no reply. But just when I was about to give up, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I always wondered if you'd come looking. Yes, I am your mother. If you're ready, I'd love to meet you. Tears welled up in my eyes as I read her words. After years of silence, a door had opened. A door to the past, to the truth, and maybe to healing. I met Marianne on a quiet Sunday afternoon at a cafe halfway between our towns. I had rehearsed what I would say 100 times in my mind, but when I saw her standing at the entrance, nervous, clutching her purse tightly, I forgot every word. She looked older than the picture in the photo Aunt Lydia had shown me, but her eyes were unmistakable. They were my eyes. We sat across from each other, uncertain, as if we were meeting for the first time and yet somehow already knew each other. The silence lingered for a few minutes before she finally spoke. I used to dream about this moment, she said softly. I didn't know if it would be painful or beautiful. Maybe it's both. We talked for hours. She told me everything, the truth my parents had kept hidden for decades. Marianne had gotten pregnant when she was just 19. My biological father had vanished before I was born. Her parents, strict and ashamed of the situation, pressured her into giving me up. But she refused to let me go to strangers. She reached out to a distant cousin, my adoptive mother, who agreed to raise me as her own. My parents had made a promise. In exchange for adopting me, they swore to never tell me the truth, not until they thought I was ready. But they kept postponing that moment, afraid it would destroy the bond we shared. Over time, the secret became heavier, buried under years of birthdays, bedtime stories, and family vacations. They loved you, Marianne said, tears forming in her eyes. They really did. They weren't trying to hurt you. They were just trying to protect you from a story they thought would break your heart. I wanted to be angry. Part of me was angry, but sitting across from the woman who gave birth to me and chose love, even in letting me go, I felt something deeper than anger. I felt grief, and I felt grace. Later that evening, I returned home and confronted my parents. This time, there was no hiding, no vague answers. We sat in the living room, eyes red from tears, hearts raw from years of silence. "I'm sorry," my mother whispered, reaching for my hand. "We were so afraid we'd lose you." "You didn't lose me," I said, though my voice trembled. "But I did lose time. I lost my story." They nodded, broken but relieved to finally speak the truth. That night, I lay awake thinking about all the versions of my life that could have been. I wasn't just the child of the parents who raised me. I was the child of sacrifice, of secrecy, of a promise, and of love in its most complicated form. In the weeks that followed, I felt like I was walking between two worlds. One I had always known, and one I had just discovered. The house I grew up in, the people who raised me, the memories we built together, they were still real, but now they shared space with a new truth, one that reshaped how I saw myself. I began spending more time with Marianne. She showed me old journals, letters she had written but never sent, and photo albums filled with pictures of me from afar, birthdays she secretly attended, school plays she watched from the back row. I had no idea she had stayed so close, loving me silently all those years. "I didn't want to interfere," she told me one day, as we walked through a local park. "I just wanted to see that you were safe and happy." Her presence began to fill in the gaps I had always felt but could never explain. Why I sometimes felt out of place, or why I had questions about myself that no one else could answer. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding my relationship with the parents who raised me. We talked more openly now, about the past, about fear, about forgiveness. It wasn't easy, but slowly the walls between us came down. I saw their humanity more clearly, the choices they made, the burdens they carried, and the deep, complicated love they had for me. One quiet evening, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. Not as the confused child from the attic, but as someone fuller, stronger, and more whole. I wasn't just the product of a secret, I was the result of many kinds of love. Messy love, protective love, sacrificial love. In finding my truth, I didn't lose my family, I gained a deeper understanding of it. I now had two mothers, one who raised me and one who gave me life. And for the first time, I felt like I knew who I really was, not because someone told me, but because I had searched, asked, hurt, healed, and finally seen. This journey wasn't just about uncovering the past, it was about choosing who I would become. I was no longer hiding in the attic, I had stepped into the light. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear what happens next, or explore more emotional and powerful family stories like this one, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Your support means the world and helps us share more hidden truths and life-changing moments. Stay connected to be the first to watch our latest videos and discover the next chapter in these unforgettable journeys. Subscribe now, because every story has a truth worth uncovering.